Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to CHLY 101.7 FM. I am Kathy Holmes and delighted to be your host for Act 3. In the Zoom booth with me today, I'm talking to Raylan Varga from Refine Home Incorporated. We're going to talk about downsizing and all those kinds of things we do when we've got a whole bunch of stuff. Welcome to the program. Hi, Ray. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Kathy, for having me.
I am delighted to have you. So let's break this wide open. We won't even, we won't even start with the pleasantries. Let's just get down to it. Tell me about downsizing because there is a lot of people that are leaning into the holidays coming up pretty soon, and they're going to be trying to make room for trees and gathering a bunch more stuff. And so, why don't we talk to people about what that all looks like?
Yeah, you bet. Well, I'm going to say right out of the gate, the word that seems to match when we talk about downsizing, the word that matches it is generally overwhelm.
Yeah.
People just that feeling of where do I start? Which is one of the main reasons why people call me because they don't know where to start. Um, and they've let things accumulate over periods of time because they are overwhelmed, because they don't know where to start. And often too, something that I say to people is it's not something that we wake up and get really excited about doing, like, hey, I'm going to tackle that that cupboard or the husband that has the garage that's chocker blocked full. He's not waking up thinking, "Ooh, yay, I'm going to go out in the garage and downsize the
Down.
hammers." And I kind of joke a little bit about this because often think that it's women that
That's so true.
downsize, but it's meant to. We all have our stuff. We all love what we love. So yeah, really that's one of the biggest things about downsizing is um I kind of let people know, like, give yourself a bit of grace because the feeling of overwhelm, feeling maybe guilty about having so much stuff or not knowing where to start, it's a very typical feeling for, I'm going to say 99% of my clients are calling me for the same reason.
Yeah.
Where do I start?
Where do I start? And it's also, it can be when you think about people and their stuff, a lot of the time there's an attachment to their
hmm
belongings, right? And it's, you know, my friend gave me that, so I don't want to get rid of it. This was an inheritance from my aunt or my sister or my a loved one that had, that they have. So it's hard to decide what do I keep? What is of use for me? And how do I let go of something without
hmm
necessarily letting go of the memory that's part of that gift in the first place?
It's super true. Like I will tell you that, I can see when I meet with clients and I'm working alongside them in the process. We're opening up boxes and containers and memorabilia. And I
Hmm.
can see they're thinking, I want to keep this, or I don't really want to keep it, but I feel like I should.
Yes.
Because there's this guilt of if I get rid of my my mother's tea set,
Yes.
there's that guilt that's attached to that. And one of the things I talk about when I'm standing with them and working with them is giving yourself permission to say, I've spent the money,
Hmm.
or I've had this great memory. I'm actually allowed to let it go. So we talk a lot about the guilt that's involved. Like, I got to keep it. It's my mom's. And a
Hmm.
lot of my clients say to me, I haven't looked at this for 30 years. I
Exactly.
ask a lot of questions when I'm downsizing with my clients because that's my way of supporting them and leading them to where they need to go. So I like to kind of guide the decision making by asking those questions. And I automatically would say to them, then give yourself a little bit of permission to let it go.
And I also think, I'd love to hear what some of those questions are because I do feel that people get ready to do things in stages, right?
hmm
Either, again, holiday season coming up where people come in, they think to themselves, there's a bunch more stuff coming in. Or on the other side of it, they just want to purge in the new year and start everything with a clean slate. But as you said, it can be a huge, huge, insurmountable thing to do, especially if you're an older adult or especially if you're a person who really, really holds on to those memories so tightly.
hmm
What kind of questions do you ask people as they're making these decisions?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious ones of, how often do you use it?
Yes.
When was the last time you used it? Do you see yourself using it in the next month or what we would say the next season? Those
Hmm.
are sort of the obvious questions. When we're actually going through, and this, I do this a lot with clients, especially when they're moving from a family home that they've lived in for 30, 40 years. So kind of that baby boomer, a population. And they're moving into a 660 square foot retirement home, or they're downsizing to a 1 to 2 bedroom condo, which is very common with most of my clients. We can't bring all of those bits and paraphernalia and all the tchotchkes and all the things that have been in their home.
Yeah.
So the question that I ask is, it's how do you feel if we sold it? How do you feel if we could donate it? How do you feel if it went to this organization? So it's kind of about how do you feel? And sometimes they say, actually, you know what? I think I can do it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's being able to and part of the reason why I do that is because I want them to recognize that I'm actually acknowledging that there has to be feelings for that stuff. That's typical. I don't like the word normal, but it's kind of a normal feeling to kind of go, I don't know if I can get rid of my mom's stuff. I mean, this is really common for women is the stuff that's in the hutch.
Yes. Yeah, I think about the hutch quite a bit. And I think about, my mother passed away in 2002, and I
Mm-hmm.
moved to Vancouver Island about 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I carried my mother's stuff with me back to Vancouver Island when I moved here. And so that's 2 decades,
Huge.
right? It's a
Yeah.
big, big deal. And because my house is very small, it was a very difficult decision for me to decide what to keep and what to let go
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't feel that I was honoring my mother's memory by getting rid of it. And I was being told things like, don't make any rash decisions. But what I think was the thing that got me over part of that was recognizing that my mother wouldn't want me to hold on to stuff that didn't bring me joy.
Yeah.
And so when I think about how, I've been in that place of trying to figure out, well, what do I do with this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And there's pieces of it. I mean, this is going to sound really silly, but we have an interesting show. I like to make it interesting. I still have my mother's dentures and I don't know what to do with them. As silly as that sounds, right? It's like, okay, I've been able to get rid of the glass ornament, but what do I do with her teeth? Right? There are things that make it that are a little bit more difficult to pass along than something like a Christmas decoration or, things like that. Mementos are great to a point. So, what do you do?
Well, it's interesting because, when you were talking, I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard of that. But you know what? It doesn't really phase me
I'm an
because it's
odd
still,
soul.
no, you know what though? No, it doesn't really phase me because really it's sort of like the mom that, and again, this is really common too when we kind of move out of that aging population. I work with a lot of moms, busy moms, professional moms that have one, two, three, four, five kids, whatever the number is, and they're going through. I just worked with a client and I was doing because my background is in professional organizing and then it led me into downsizing. Um, sorry, my thought, professional organizing. So I was going through her stuff with her and she had drawers of artwork from her
Yes,
kids. Okay.
yes.
So that's the same kind of
Same
like,
kind of thing. Hmm.
it's like, and then we would go into the baby stuff and they would be, and this is kind of what triggered when you talked about the dentures was the locks of hair.
Yes.
Um, I had one client, and actually, I don't think I've ever said this before to people. My kids would tell you this. I used to keep my teeth.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that it's a weird thing. I have my son's baby teeth. I don't have them all in fairness. And I have his diaper pins. And I will not deny that I have a few things like that. But I resonate with the artwork because, especially my son I've got 4 grandchildren now. So it's a whole different animal. But when he was coming home with that stuff, it broke my heart to actually pass it to the bin, like our, or whatever. And so what I've done for my four grandkids now, because I recognize there can be so much stuff, I
Yes,
bought them those frames that, they have a hidden compartment at the back of them so you can change out the piece of artwork from something that they drew
I
yesterday.
love that.
And then you can, change it out. And when that, you know, pare that down and keep it, okay, so I'll have one piece from grade one or maybe one piece from grade two or something like that as they're going a long time instead of having buckets of it, right? It's hard to get rid of the buckets full of stuff.
Well, it is, and I think the other part of it too is that I need to be really solution based about what to do with things.
Yes.
So when it comes to things like artwork or those really sentimental things, what I tell my clients is let's take some photos. And one of my clients, we created photo books of the
Brilliant.
kids' artwork. And I'm going to tell you something that if we can kind of let ourselves go to that place where we are taking photos and getting rid of the actual item,
Yes.
that's sort of hard for people because the artwork that the kids have worked on, with the cotton balls stuck on there and half
Yeah.
glued and the
Yeah.
sequins that are falling off and the all that stuff,
Yes,
it's
I
going
do.
to go in the garbage or the recycling. But we've taken a photo, and I tell my clients, I can guarantee you that your kids or yourself, whoever it is going to sit down and they will open the book.
They
They
will.
will open the book, and it could be just the book could be called whatever, My Mom or Memories or Grade Two, and that would be the child's artwork. You will actually use that book. It'll
No.
sit somewhere, or if your kids feel like going through their artwork, then we don't feel so bad. The goal is to just get rid of the clutter and get rid of the accumulation of things that are in the closets and in the drawers. I mean, this client that I was talking about, she was such a great mom and she and her kids were very creative, but she had drawers. Like every drawer was
Yeah.
just full.
Oh.
So
Mm.
I said to her, how do you feel about letting some of this go? And she goes, I don't know if I can. So I said, well, let's listen, let's talk about some other ways of keeping it.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes all people need is, to know that it can still be kept or it's going to go somewhere where it's not going to go into the landfill or the garbage can. So it's just giving people solutions
Yeah. Yeah.
and permission to feel what they feel when they're going through that stuff.
I think another element to this though is that there are a lot of people like myself. I'm totally guilty of this. I'm a thrifter. I love the hunt of the treasure, right? But in fairness, there's a simple rule that one must have, or we will become overwhelmed beyond
Yeah.
ridiculous, right? Because it would be so easy. When I go into a thrift store, I see everything going from 1960s up into present. The present stuff I don't care about so much because to me it's nothing. But the
Yeah.
stuff that goes back to that prime period in my life when joy was like teenagehood and young adulthood and the 70s and the early 80s. I look at the item when I'm in the thrift shop and I go, oh my God. And the memory comes flooding back to me as if it was moments ago. And so I find myself, I've had to actually become very critical about what I'm buying now so that as you said, I mean, we're talking about memories here. That's the stuff that brings us back. And when
Mm.
we think about having a book as well, a book is like taking up a little bit of a shelf. It's not taking up the garage, right? Like it's so easy
Yeah.
to overwhelm the accumulation and enjoy the hunt. So now it's more of okay, well, if I enjoy the hunt, it's like bird watching. You don't bring the bird home. You look at it through the binoculars or you take a photo of it or is thought.
Or buy it and then you come back to that space. And I mean, I see this with women, the vases, the amount of vases.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's like, oh, this is really cool. And this one's blue, and this one has this design on it, or this one's from my mom and got this one as a gift. And then all of a sudden we've got this is no word of a lie. Like I did a job and God, I think we counted like 63 vases.
Oh my goodness.
So I work with two really amazing women in business florists in the Nanaimo area. And I say to her, why don't you pick out your top? I think this lady, I think we kept 10.
Oh wow. But from 63, that's a big difference.
And so how do we get from 63 to 10? It's not like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. One of the things that I've recognized as I've kind of gone along in my business and my business has grown, and the more people I spend time with, I learn a lot about approach and what people's needs are. And one of the things that I really take to heart is that sometimes it's more than one step.
Yeah.
It's not, hi, Ray, nice to meet you. We're going to get rid of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes kids will come to me, the adult kids saying, how come mom and dad are taking that? And I said, because they're not ready to let it go.
Hmm.
But what's going to happen is there's going to come another time when they're going to pare it down again,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and sometimes it's more than one step to get to that place. So originally, this client, she had about 25 vases. And in my mind, because it's not my stuff, I'm thinking that's a lot. And she's not going to have room for 25.
Hmm.
So I'll say that to her. I said, I'm worried that you're taking too many. We
Hmm.
pare it down. She said, yeah, I know. I knew you were going to say that, Ray.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like they're kind of coming up with things on their own. And so she was really happy with the 10 that she had. And then the rest she knew were going to florists that were going to use them.
But what I'm also hearing is relationship building, right? Like this is a
Mhm.
process of relationship
It
building.
is.
We tend to be more open to hearing suggestions from other people when we have a bit of a relationship with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100% it is. And you know, I talk about this when I do downsizing seminars for some of the realtors. I talk about this a lot. Um, my job is not just the logistics or just the how to make it happen. That's a really important part of it. And that's
Mm.
a lot of where people feel like, ah, thank goodness I found you, or thank goodness I don't have to do this alone. But I can tell you, 99% of my clients, we have a relationship,
Hmm.
very trusting, caring, for me, very empathetic because I mean, I don't have my parents, but I know what that would feel like to go through my mom's stuff,
Hmm.
you know? Um, I've moved lots myself. I mean, when I came to the island, I had to get my stuff under 4,000 pounds and I came out of a custom home. I
Mm.
know that feeling.
Hmm.
And, you know, so for me, what I tell people, and I think I can humbly say that the success of what I do has a lot to do with I want people to trust me because I really am from the moment I go into a consultation. They don't know me other than maybe my Google reviews. And I'm in their home looking in their drawers and
Yeah.
telling them, like, hey, like, how many sets of sheets do you really need? I don't ever say that. But
But
I
but it's
gen
there. It's
like
I mean that's what your job is to be able to decide what to keep, what to revisit, what to give away, what to share. Like there is a staging that goes
yeah,
with all of that. And the downsizing piece is important, but I want to touch on the fact that it's not just the downsizing. You mentioned about your parents, and a few moments ago I mentioned about my mother. The one thing that I actually learned from my mother's experience, and my mother was a little bit of a hoarder, I'll be honest with you, she really
okay.
was. And so that was, I had to be, it was a tough, I couldn't walk into my mother's house when she was alive and just say, well, Mom, you don't need this and this, because she came from scarcity. And so for her, holding
Yeah, of
on to things was just like a really critical thing. But
course.
what I learned is on the other end of it, and I'm not my mother, right? But I don't want my son to feel what I felt when I was going through my mother's stuff. There's something to be said when our mother or our parents pass over,
Yeah.
And when we're left with all that, there is that guilt that we talked about earlier in the program. There is that, well, what do I do with these pieces and how long is too long to hang on to it?
Yeah.
But if your family lives out of town, and so many families do not live in
Mhm.
the same city as their parents do any longer, it's very difficult for people to come in like a parachute and then just eliminate everything that's in the house so that the house can go quickly up for sale and we
Yep.
can move on. So I really want to talk a little bit about planning, this succession planning for your life, regardless of how old you are.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's one of the things I share with, you know, um, the audiences of downsizing seminars. It's kind of that same story that, we can have the things in our house that we enjoy and that we love, but there's going to come a time that our adult kids or whoever is appointed to take care of our stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty candid when I say to people, are you happy and comfortable with what you're leaving?
Hmm.
Most of my clients say no, we have way too much stuff.
Hmm. It's true.
Or I'll say to them, right now, if one kind of an opening comment that I make when I do a seminar is right now, if something happened, your health declined and you had to relocate, do you feel that your home is ready for a easy sale or someone to step in? And most of them say no.
Yeah.
We just have so much stuff, we don't even know where to start. And I get phone calls often from adult kids that don't live here. I worked for a fellow couple of years ago. His kids both lived in Australia.
Wow.
His wife was in care, declining. He was very sad and very overwhelmed that he needed to sell his own home that he and his wife were in, and he was moving to a very small place, not bringing much.
Mm.
So these kids, adult kids, are trusting me to go in and care about their dad. I love my job. I just love that I get to be with these people, but there's a responsibility on my part that I need to make sure that these adult kids are involved, that they feel like they're part of the process, even though they're thousands of miles apart. Um, and so it's gone well. It's been very successful, but I think really that's my responsibility is to make sure that they feel that their parents are being cared for, and I want the parents to feel like they still got their kids nearby, kind of through me,
Mhm.
that part
Yes,
of
it's like almost like being an extension of the family in that regard.
it. So when you talk about adult kids, and I did a little post a couple of years ago on Instagram talking about being the child that has to come in or is appointed to come in or feel like you need to come in and help your parents downsize before they move, is to be able to kind of walk in their shoes. And one of the things I said is ask them questions saying, hey, mom and dad, are you overwhelmed? Because I feel really overwhelmed looking at your stuff. It
Hmm.
seems to be like the safest way without being in their face saying, because I hear this too. The kids will take me aside and they'll say, my parents have so much stuff. We just need to get rid of it. Or they'll say, just take it all to junk. Because they've been in this for years and years and years, watching their parents keep the twist ties and the baggies and the Ziplocs and everything. And we know why that happened. We know what the reason is economically for people that kept everything. Um, so, one of the things I do say to the kids is, I'm going to make sure to the best of my ability that they're only bringing what they need to bring. And there's going to be some stuff in there that's in the gray area, and it always happens
Hmm. Hmm.
because it just does. I've yet to see a job where it's been an absolute keep or don't. There's always things that go that should not go.
Yeah,
They have
understand.
to go. Like
Hmm.
we're just humans. We can't just kind of
Well, and then I think that people forget that our home is our nest, right? And women understand
Yeah.
our nesting, and we're creatures of comfort when we know we
Mhm.
have X amount of blankets in the house, when we know we have X amount of, beauty around us. Or, I mean, for most people, when they bring stuff into their home, there's an attachment to it, and it's about that whole detachment and the mental health piece that goes with it.
Chorus. And it's funny too, you kind of triggered a thought for me as you were speaking, because it's really true. Because the other side of it isn't just um what we're used to, or the economics of like, I have to keep this stuff just in case I need it.
Hmm.
I worked with a client um who had, really awful health issues, and she was getting ready to sell her place.
Mm,
I'm gonna say, I don't throw the word hoarder around. I'm very careful. I have worked with probably 5 clinical hoarders
mm,
in the last 3.5 years,
mhm,
based kind of on my experience and my, training. But this particular woman probably fell close in that category. She kept literally everything. So the trick for me was moving her out of a home into a 1.5
mm,
bedroom.
mm, mm,
And she had lots of crafting material. So she was a sewer, a quilter. She did pottery. She had all the bits of being a creative person. But I could clearly see, because of her health, that she hadn't been doing that for probably years.
mhm,
And hordes of fabric,
mhm,
just
mhm,
bits, rooms full of stuff, rooms and rooms and rooms full of stuff. And she taught me something, because I said to her, I can, after a period of time, I feel like I can say these things. They allow me to be close to them in that way. I'll say to her, I feel like you're not doing pottery anymore. Is that true? Or are you still doing pottery? Or tell me how that looks. And she'll say, I'm not doing pottery, but I want to do pottery.
mhm,
So I want to keep it.
mhm. Yeah, she's not
Tell
ready
me
to
about
give
the
it up.
sewing. Tell me about the painting. And same answer. No, I'm not really doing it because I'm not well enough, but I want to. So I said to her, tell me where that need to keep it comes from. She said to me, because if you make me take it away, then I won't feel like a complete person.
Mm,
And it was just kind of like, it kind of hit me like, this is this stuff defines her,
mhm, mhm.
right?
I entirely resonate with that, and I see
So it
all
was
the time.
really, it's, we can say that. But
Mhm,
when someone actually tells you, like, I'm looking around thinking, there's no way we can bring all this. That's my
mm,
logical, professional organizer mind, and let's
mm.
get the mission done. But I also recognize that this person really struggled with an accumulation of everything. Lots of racks of paints and brushes, just racks and racks and racks. Like she could have opened a store.
Yeah, yeah.
But for me to say, you can't take this, I don't usually say it like that. It's, what do you think you need to take that you will use? And then that kind of helps them think, okay, I can't take it all. But yeah, when she said that to me, because I won't feel like a complete person,
Mm,
because she wants to feel alive, and those things make her feel alive. They make her
absolutely.
feel happy.
Hmm.
So it's a very real thing. And that's something I like to share with kids, is that, even though your mom and dad aren't using those things, it
Well,
makes them feel.
I think that our kids often in their desire to be helpful to their families, they think they're being helpful, but we wrap our identity as adults in so many different layers,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And our dreams are loaded in those conversations, right? I want to be a painter. I was a painter. I want to be an artist. I was an artist, right? When we're putting it in a past tense, we're putting ourselves into pasture. So there's that place of I'm not ready to let go because I'm not ready to commit to the fact that I'm not as well as I once was.
They already know that they have to downsize.
They
They
do.
already know that their health is declining. They already know that, they may have lost a spouse. It's already hard. It's already traumatic.
Exactly.
It's already
Exactly.
stressful. So I think from my goal, what do I do in a situation like that? It's more about keeping those things that kind of define them, but
Hmm.
less of it.
Less of it. Exactly. Yeah.
And again, I'm not in the business of saying you can't take that. It's not hard. It's more about leading them to make the decisions on their own.
And
I'm kind of guiding them there.
you're guiding them. And I think that once you have their buy-in, right? Once you have their ability to say, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this now. Again, small doses, little bit at a time is what I think helps the process. So do you, when it, like, for example, let's say someone gave you a call, right? Let's put
Mhm.
it in practice. One of our wonderful Nanaimo residents comes and says, hey, Ray, I'm overwhelmed. What do you, what happens when they call you? What can somebody expect when they first reach out to you and say, I'm ready?
Yeah, normally what I do, especially if it's a phone consultation, and sometimes it'll come in from a referral from a realtor or whoever else, or just a random, dry call from Google, whatever it may be,
Mhm.
is I just want to try and gather as much information. You know, most people are overwhelmed, and I get them to kind of talk about where that comes from.
Mhm.
And then I set up a free consultation because if they really want to go ahead and perhaps have some help, I want to see their space. I want them to meet me and I want to meet them. Um, and generally those are really positive starts because my job is to go into that home space, or sometimes it's a business where they're calling me saying, "Oh my gosh, our business is out of control. We can't find anything." I like to kind of get that initial feeling of where they're at on the phone call. My job in every step of the way is to meet my client where they're at.
Mhm.
I'm
Very-
not really there to judge the
Mhm.
chaos, the accumulation. Um, I just got to meet them where they're at. And I think that out of the gate, they're kind of like, okay, she gets me. And so that's kind of advice that I give kids or people that are involved with the person that's downsizing. Or I worked with a businesswoman and she had a team member and they were frustrated because she was disorganized and things
Mm.
were cluttered up and they couldn't really do their job well. My advice to them was this, just meet her where she's at. This is kind of
Mhm.
how her thought process works.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really big part of it is just being able to acknowledge that people are overwhelmed, or this is this feels hard for you, doesn't it? I can tell this feels hard for you. Or ask them, how does this feel after the first session? I ask every time I leave a session, how are you feeling? And they're like, honestly, Ray, I feel like 5 hours today felt really hard compared to the other time we did 5 hours. And I'm like,
Mhm.
tell me about that.
Mhm.
That's an important part for me because I can go in there and I could downsize for 8 or 10 hours by myself, but that's not
Mhm.
the case.
I think that's a very important clarification that it's easy for somebody to go in and go, you know what? This can go, 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 this could, because there isn't, you're looking at it from a very different place, right? You're not looking at it from being invested in that stuff. You're looking at it from a practical and a way of building that bridge to be able to learn to let go of things. And I think that that's a really important piece is meeting people where they're at, because frankly,
100%.
it's somebody is experience with this is going to be different than somebody else's. No two decluttering
It's
pieces are the
true.
same. It's not just about the stuff. There's a very emotional piece tied to it. So give me 1 second here before we move forward, because at this time of the program, I always tell people, go grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen. You know you want to, because you're going to want Raylan's phone number, and you're going to want to be able to reach out to her and get exactly what you need to maybe begin that process of decluttering, if that's something that's right for you. Remember, she does other things. We're going to talk about some of the other things that she does in just a few moments. But in the meanwhile, grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen. If you have just tuned in, you're listening to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. I'm Kathy Holmes. I am delighted to be your host for Act 3. And I also encourage you to watch us on our YouTube channel, listen to us on iHeartRadio or Spotify. If you just tuned in to CHLY 101.7, every Monday at 1 o'clock, we produce this show for you. So we do hope that you will listen to us as your regular driving station as you're going down the road. But if you miss part of it, by all means, come back and check us out on our other platforms. I also want to remind everybody, 'tis the season right now for us to be paying attention to what's going on in our community. There's lots of festivities that are going to be happening in the next little while. And so I encourage you to check things out through Nanaimo Voyager magazine, through WhatsApp, through any of the different places where you can get some information about what's happening locally. But remember, we are looking forward to this community, looking after this community. Remember, there's a lot of people that may not have all the things that we have, and it's really wonderful that we're able to share. So if you're looking for places to donate this year, I always encourage people to check out the Angels program with Volunteer Nanaimo, the Salvation Army, of course, and so many other places. So do your best if you can and help where you can. Thanks again for tuning in to Act 3 on CHLY. Let's continue with our program. Raylan Vargas with us from Refine Home. Raylan, I'm enjoying our conversation oh so very much, and I'm so delighted
Good.
that you're here today to talk
Oh,
about this
thank you.
really important topic. It
Thank you.
it gives me chills, to be honest with you, when I remember what it was like, to be overwhelmed with a bunch of stuff and having to downsize for myself to come to Nanaimo. And I remember the levity, the lightness that I felt once I had everything gone or in place or ready. And I think people forget it is stressful in that beginning piece, right? When you're
Yeah.
meeting people where they're at to do that process, it's a job. And
Mhm.
let's face it, many of us are already working so many hours. We're already looking after our kids or grandkids. There's so much on our plates. How on earth do we find that extra time to do the decluttering? And what would you share with people to help them let this be a part of the joy as opposed to being part of just another thing that needs to be done?
Yeah, as I was listening to you, I was thinking about a client that I just met with last week. And, I think the biggest thing is, you know, we all have busy lives. Some of us are working out of the home, some of us are working at home, and especially since the pandemic, lots of people are working in their home environments. And we're around, like looking around, like, oh man, like I can't even think about that. But we're surrounded by that, especially if we're working at home. But
Mhm.
this one particular lady that I met with, she's a professional here in Nanaimo. And, one of the things she said to me is, I used to be able to do this.
Yes.
This, I used to be like you. I used to be
Hmm.
able to do this. And I said, I can tell. I bet you have. You
Hmm.
just kind of know that person was just super organized and on the ball. And then here she is with this huge house, and she's got to get it on the market, and she's aging, her health is, a little bit jeopardized. So she's starting right out of the gate to kind of be hard on herself. And I
Yeah.
tell at that consult, I will say, give yourself some grace.
Hmm.
This is the number two most stressful event in a person's life next to death and loss. And a lot of times we throw divorce in there because that's kind of like it's a loss.
Absolutely.
It's number
For
one.
sure.
So we're moving and downsizing and all of that stuff is like number two.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to feel heavy. How do I get people to feel like, hey, there's some light at the end of the tunnel or there's a little bit of hope? And this comes from a very genuine place that it's better to do it with somebody else.
Mm. everything is better to do with somebody else,
And
right?
you know what I tell people? Two heads are better than one
Yeah.
in this. And it's my energy, it's their energy, whether it's a man, a business person, a woman, whatever it is, because I'm going to kind of instill some momentum. And I come up with a project plan. So when I come and do a consultation, I can look around the space, whether I'm organizing their home with them and for them. And we can talk more about that because sometimes I'm just doing it and
Mhm.
sometimes I'm actually working alongside the client. But often I come up with a project plan saying, listen, we've got 6 sessions or 10 hours together. This is how it's going to look. And I will tell you, I have women, and I'm mostly working with women, but of course men too, that say to me, I feel so motivated. Or they'll send me photos of stuff that they've done.
Yes, of
Like
course.
my phone blows up sometimes after 1 and 2 sessions, and it's like ping, and it's like a picture of a closet that they organized. And I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I tell you, I will respond every single time to those because to me, that is massive. And something I did today was I've been working with the client probably since the summer. Just covered in boxes, haven't really unpacked. She probably had too much stuff. She reached out to me and I spent, I think, session 6 with her last week, and I took away lots of donations. Today was the last day that I parked those donations at one of the other places. I have kind of multiple places I drop things off.
Mhm.
And I sent her a message today saying to her, you have done a phenomenal job of downsizing
Yeah.
because I don't take that for granted because I know that was huge for her. Because she loves her stuff and she's so creative. She's amazing. And she said to me, that means a lot to me. And I think my relationship with them, it's just that little burst of energy. It's the accountability. We're
Mhm.
trying to stay on task. We're trying to stay on schedule. Because let's face it, I know this happens to everybody, even me. We're in a space rifling through stuff. And one of the words that I use when I'm working is, are we going to keep it, donate it, sell it, or discard it? And that's a nicer way of saying garbage.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the other word is relocate. And that means it needs to go somewhere else in the house. So I said, okay, then we're not going to physically move it over to that space yet. Because you know what happens? You go into that space and you get sidetracked and you go down memory lane in that space.
So true.
So we make a box that says relocate. And after we're done in that space, we'll deal with the box. And it's been a really great system for a lot of my clients so that when I'm gone in between sessions or when I'm gone and they don't see me again, because that's kind of my goal.
Yeah,
Um,
the premise is to bring you in, but so that you can learn the tools and
yes.
respectfully not, it's not, doesn't have to be a long cycle.
No, I mean, my goal is that they don't need me anymore. And if they do, that's okay. I'll come and we'll check in with you. And I do check in with my clients. So my job really is about creating a system for decision making and creating a system of what to do with the actual stuff. Because again, and I think we all can agree, sure, it's great to put it in a box or in a bag, and it's getting it out the door where it needs to go or getting it on marketplace where it needs to be sold. I will do a lot of that, but I want my clients to have those skills as well. So really for me, it's about, yes, the relationship, but it's being able to give them the tools,
Yes.
to be able to do that when I'm not there. But yes, I think the number one thing for me, honestly, is I get excited that I get to work with them because I know that they feel good.
And I also think that really when we are accountable to somebody else,
Yep.
it's a little bit easier to make those decisions.
Mhm.
The other thing that I think about when we're doing it ourselves, I don't know about you, but I know for myself, is I get into the mode where I'm like a tornado in my house, man. I will go through every closet, everything, zoom, 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 and I throw everything away, and then I move things around, and then I forgot where I put the damn thing. And so
Yeah.
that's the next thing that becomes bothersome, right? Is then I give myself, I don't know if other people do this, but I'm going to be, very fully transparent here. I give myself the beat up stick, right? So here's an example. I have in my possession a late show mug, a coffee mug. It is the most expensive coffee mug I have ever bought in my life because I love Stephen Colbert. I will be straight up about it. I love Stephen Colbert. Watch him every night. So I decided that I was going to, off Amazon, I bought myself the authentic blue mug, and I love that mug. I've never drank a bloody coffee out of it, but I love that mug. So now let's pause the conversation for a moment. For those of you that enjoy my home, as you're watching on YouTube, you will see that I have a large bookcase behind me that has all kinds of good stuff in it. It has been purged many, many times, and I get a lot of compliments, by the way, on my house all the time. Thank you, viewers, for sending me lovely notes. I really do appreciate that you love my fireplace and my coziness of my home. However, I purged that place and I got rid of 8 bags of good stuff that I sent off to thrift shops. Somewhere along the line, my authentic late show coffee mug was lost in the transition. The $55 coffee mug, because it was in US and it was delivered, right?
Oh
I was,
no.
so then I spent days. Where's my mug? Where's my mug? Where's my mug? I can't believe I've lost that mug. I cannot believe that mug. To this day, I have not found that mug, but I had to replace it. So I spent the money again. And now if I do find it, I will have two. However, it's an odd item that I'm sharing with people. The reason is not just so you can be voyeuristic in my life. The reason I'm sharing this is because I recognize, yay, it's so great to get rid of stuff because I do feel lighter when I clean out my stuff. I feel
Yeah.
so much lighter. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can breathe in my house again. And at times, I wish for something that I'd gotten rid of.
Yeah. It's true. Like mental clarity and just, I use the word management. I don't really like the word control. It's like I say to people, you're just going to feel like you have better management over your house. You're going to know what you own. You're going to shop less because you're going to actually see how much you have of food items. You're going to really see that you have enough black pairs of shoes. And for a man in a shop, he's going to see all the hammers and all the screwdrivers because that happens to guys a lot.
All the
When
time.
I'm downsizing shops,
Hmm.
multiples of something, it's because I can't find that screwdriver, especially
That's
for
right.
men to get all the kinds of their bits.
So
So
true.
they go buy another one down at Home Hardware. And then I go to downsize them, or because part of my services is I pack people up and I get them moved. I can see like, oh my gosh, they must have lost this item more than once because they got multiples of it. I mean, the cup, I'm going to be looking for that cup at the thrift store.
I know you are. I'm sure everyone is. They'll be looking for my late show mug. But the point of the matter is it's the mental health, right? It's that piece of
100%.
where is it? Because it really bothered me that where is my mental clarity? I would
Yeah.
never have gotten rid of that mug on purpose.
Yeah.
But when it comes to tools, same thing. When it comes to
Yeah.
black shoes, same thing. I probably own, I can't even tell you how many pairs of black shoes I probably have. And of course, as a woman, I excuse that fact simply because, well, one is a half an inch heel and the next one is a kitten heel and the other one is a platform. And the other, like, there's a reason why I have so many different styles of the same black shoe. The reality is it's a black shoe. So,
Yeah.
we have to sometimes get brutal with the decisions that we're making. And when we do wish that we hadn't gotten rid of something, we also have to look at that, I think, right? I look back and say to myself, well, now, if I had kept it in the same place, right?
Yeah.
If I kept it in the same place. So there's the
Yeah.
story you tell yourself, right? The story I tell myself is I can't change because if I do, I won't remember. The story I tell myself is blank, 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 fill in the blanks, right? And so,
Yeah.
it is a huge process, I think, when we're trying to downsize, declutter. And as you pointed out earlier, if you're coming from a divorce or a life-altering situation already, it's really difficult to be able to be kind to yourself because you think you
Mhm.
should be able to do something.
Yeah.
Those shoulds can be awfully mean, right?
Well, and that's kind of a lot of what I see right at the consultation or on the initial contact with the client is whether it's an organizing job, people will call me and say, I thought I could do this by
Yes.
myself. I
Yes,
thought I could do this. I should be able to do this by myself, Ray. And, I kind of let people know that there's a lot of things that I used to be able to do that I don't do anymore either. And that's just because life is always shifting.
it is. And
It's a fact of life.
the good news is change is a good thing,
It
right?
is. And, I think, so for me, one of the things that I want to address often when I meet somebody is I want to meet them where they're at. I want to recognize and acknowledge how they feel, but being able to let them know that it's okay to feel that, but we're going to move you through up to a point where you're going to feel empowered.
Yeah.
You're going to feel in better management of your home, of your life. And that's really what I see, the results of what I see when I'm doing professional organizing. Sometimes I'm going in there and actually just organizing their house. I take a lot of information first if I'm doing it. I like to work alongside my clients on almost every job because that's giving them the power and the capacity and the ability to continue to take care of their home after I walk out the door. Because I'm not really, I'll do it. I'll go in and I'll just organize your house for you. But there's more power in me building capacity in my clients and giving them that, like, yeah. And I can see that when the texts come in and the photos come in, they're just like, and I read them. I've done this, and I said, hey, I'm going to see you next Tuesday. I just want to check in and see how you're doing. And they'll just go boom, 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 boom. And I'm just like so thrilled
Of
because that to me
course.
tells me,
It's achievement. It's a goal that's
yes,
been done. We do check off the things we do at work every day, and we give ourselves rewards for behavior. We
yes,
do it all the time in other things. But I also, and I forgive me for a moment, but there is something that I think everybody needs to consider here, and I'm hoping that they will take this with the joy that it's being presented. And that is I hire people to take care of my teeth. I hire people to
yeah,
take care of my eyesight. I hire, we have doctors that look after our body. We have counselors that look after our emotional health. We bring professionals in every single day to do yard work or electrical work or this work or that work. And this is the same. This is bring somebody in
yeah,
who is a professional. They
yeah.
know there is a level of expertise that comes with this that we don't possess necessarily on our own. And even if we could do it, even if we had the background in doing it, it's still something that is so much easier done in pairs. It's so much easier done with someone else.
100%. And again, I think like I say to people, it's okay to ask for help,
Yes. Yeah.
especially women, because those are the things that I hear when I come is like, I woulda, coulda, shoulda. How come I can't do this? I used to be this. I used to be this. I mean, I do that.
We all do. We all,
And I want to be able to say, like, you're right. That probably doesn't feel very good, but we're going to get you to a place where I think you're going to feel like you've got better management of what's going on in your home. And, I just love seeing those kind of successes in what I do. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things I think that gets in the way for a lot of people is some people are an all or nothing kind of person.
so true.
I'm going to take on the whole house because the whole house is chaos. So I talk a lot about, I do some Zoom chats with a colleague of mine. She's actually a photo organizer. She does a lot of digitizing. We do this wonderful little Ask the Experts Zoom chat. And one of the things we talk about is bite-sized pieces.
Mm,
Let's just take a small, easy space, a part of the hutch, a drawer, a closet. the linen closet. We don't touch kitchens. Those are, they're off limits until we do an easier space.
Yeah.
And just dip your toe into like just that process of the four categories, that process of relocating, setting a timer, you know. And I think the results are more positive because I think if a person decides, I can't start a single thing because I need a whole week. I tell people, not really. Let's let's make things more bite size.
Yeah.
And just maybe it's once a month. So I tell people if you're going to move next year and you want to list your home or you're just going to move, period, give yourself 6 to 8 months minimum. And I want people to have the time to reminisce. I want them to take the pressure off of, you know, holy cow, we got to get packed up and get the house listed. I see this all the time. Oh my goodness, Ray, we should have called you. We had your number 3 months ago, but our house sold faster and
Yes.
we're not ready.
Yes.
It's like night and day.
Yeah.
We've got a client, I work with clients that are kind of picking away at their stuff and they're going to list their house or, there's that less pressure versus a client that's like, we got to get out in 4 weeks. Because then all of a sudden everything, it's just how you picture. It's a panic.
The panic. And then you're not really thinking things through. When you're in a hurry and
Nope,
you're rushing, that's how you lose
nope.
late show coffee mugs. Like it's
And things are thrown in the garbage that shouldn't
way.
be. And then you get adult kids coming in or the people that are taking care of your home and taking care of you that are just saying, get rid of it.
That's
We
right.
don't have time. Then all of a sudden, everyone's just the stress
Mm.
just
It doesn't have
manifests.
to be that way. So we told people a few minutes ago, Ray, to grab a piece of paper and a pen. Now's the
Yeah,
perfect segue because we're talking about meat and potatoes here of getting this job done. A simple beginning is to start with how people can reach you.
sure. So I'm based, and that's another great question. I'm based in Nanaimo, but I serve Victoria all the way up to, I think the farthest I've gone is Comox, Courtney. I do some work in Porter Bernie. So I am, although I'm based in Nanaimo here, you can reach me at 250-877-8206. That's my number here. And I get text messages from people, and I
That's
am happy with that. You can call me. You can also visit me on my website. My website has lots of information around my various types of services. It's www.refinehomeinc, like inc.com.
nice and easy.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Phone is great. People can call me, and I like that. Then a voice is good, and then I get a sense of
Yeah.
what your needs are and how I can be
Have that
useful.
conversation, right? It's good that
Yeah,
for us
yeah,
to
I
do
love
that.
that. I love that.
We only have about a minute left in the program. And so what I like to do for everybody is yes, we've got your information for those that are watching us on YouTube. It'll be down in the comment section. I'll get all that information available. So I do encourage you to check it out. But I always ask people if they could have a takeaway, like a piece of wisdom that was really, really important, that you'd like to leave people with. What might that look like for you?
Mm, well, that's a good question. I think probably the biggest thing, and it's something that I would say probably to most of my clients that are downsizing, is I said it earlier, it's really just about giving yourself some grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Grace goes a
oh,
long way.
it's okay that your house feels out of control. It's okay that you haven't started this for a year. It's okay that you've let things pile up. It's okay. Like it's just because, having that feeling of I'm failing, or that feeling of guilt, it's going to get in the way of us moving forward. It's going to get in the way of success. And so right out of the gate, it's just being able to say, you know what, this is where I'm at. And I'm sick and tired of it. And Ray, I need help.
And so that's what people can do is they can call you
Yes.
and they can get the help that they need. And, Ray, it's been such a privilege to talk with you. I've enjoyed our conversation so very much. I know our listeners have enjoyed our conversation as well. And I'm really delighted for people to understand that grace is a gift. And we
Mm-hmm.
give it to other people so freely.
Yeah.
And really, it's okay for us to give it to ourselves. So thank you.
100%.
Thank you so much for your
Thanks so
information,
much.
for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
My pleasure indeed. Hey, everybody, it has been such a treat to have you listening in as well. So thanks for doing that. We appreciate that you tune in every Monday at 1 o'clock on CHLY 101.7 FM. Once again, I'm Kathy Holmes. I'm your host for Act 3. Have yourself a delicious day, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.